Many people talk about dural torque. Dural torque is at the mercy of the muscles that control the body posture and movement that affect the centering the spine patterns. We have flexion, extension, lateral flexion, and gait. All these things affect the so-called dural torque. You know, the dura is innervated only in the spine on its posterior 1/3. Only the posterior third of the spine is innervated, spinal dura is innervated. It's innervated with nociceptors. So it really doesn't respond to stretch or anything like that. It doesn't have any reflexes, but it does respond to nociception. So if you put tension on it, you might trigger off some nociceptors, and nociceptors create withdrawal reflexes, muscle reactions. But what happens with the dural torque is the dura sort of suspends from C2 down to the S2 area. It's hung there. Dural torque issues, the torque on the dura is not coming from the dural torque, which has its own motoricity, which it doesn't at all. It's only got receptors that are nociceptors, has no motor activity. The dura is at the mercy of all these other positions our body goes into. And you can get dural torque, but it's secondary to some mechanical thing, some muscular thing, some lateral flexion thing. And so when you have dural torque, and people talk about dural torque and they think that's an entity, it is not an entity, it is secondary. Yes, because the nociceptors in the posterior third of the dura and the spinal dura, you can get responses from torquing the dura or detorquing the dura and get secondary responses, but it is not an entity in of itself. It's secondary to the muscles that control the patterns of centering the spine. And when you do that, the dural torque is at the mercy of these muscles, and then you center the spine, and then you take the dural torque off. So the endocrine system has as much effect on dural torque, if not more, than common structural faults. Many structural faults, including subluxations, will resolve when you center the spine. And so I believe in dural torque, but it's not an entity. And you can get responses from detorquing the dura mechanically, but where did the source of it come from in the first place? It could come from an injury, an IRT pattern torquing the spine. It could come from a variety of things, including endocrine problems or other centering the spine problems. But the dura is at the mercy of what muscles cause the spine to do around it and what kind of torque or tension they put on it. So I'm fine with dural torque, but when people talk about it as this is the problem is dural torque, why? Why would the dura torque? Because there's some imbalance in the muscles that center the spine that put the tension on the dura and cause it to torque. That's why.